What if you know somebody who's in a domestic violence situation? Maybe it's somebody that you work with, maybe it's a friend or a family member. Do you have any idea what to do? Well, if you missed last week's video, go back and watch it. It is suggestions, tips, things to do if you know somebody in that type of a situation. This week, we're going to talk about what not to do, and then also things that you can do that would help them to be more safe. So a little bit of what not to do and what to do in this video. I just had to break it up. The last one was long and I was getting sick, and I'm so glad that I did that video when I did, because the next day I was so much worse and I was sick all week. So not COVID. I did go get tested. It wasn't COVID, but it wasn't pretty. So I'm back and I'm feeling a lot better. Thank you for being with me. So let's get into topic. One of the biggest things not to do, I have a list that I can look at, but one of the biggest and most important things not to do is judge them. People don't understand. You're getting judged by the abuser all the time, and you are judging yourself as the victim or survivor all the time. And the biggest fear, one of a couple of the biggest fears that a victim has when they're reaching out for help, is judgment of other people. So if they actually come to you, which is a huge step, if they come to you and say, I'm in this kind of situation, do not judge them. Even if you don't agree with what they're doing, even if you think that it's the stupidest, craziest crap you've ever heard of in your life, go tell somebody else that you trust, that's going to do it in confidence, is going to listen to you vent, but don't tell the victim. They're not in a position where they can handle constructive criticism at this point. All criticism to them seems like terrible criticism in the place that they're in right now. So just don't do that. Don't do the judging thing. Be the listener and be supportive and offer information and resources. Those things are fantastic, but don't judge them. Second thing on my list, don't keep trying to work out the reasons for the abuse. Concentrate on supporting the abuse victim, which is pretty much another way of saying the first one. It doesn't matter why. In that situation, in that moment, why the abuse is happening doesn't matter. What matters is that it is happening, and how can we get this person safe? How can we help this person to feel heard and validated and loved and supported? That's what's important in these moments. You can figure out the why later, but right now, they are what's important, not the why. I want to pause for just a second because I want to remind you, last time I did it at the end of the video, and not everybody watches to the end of the video. So in case I'm murdered, what you should know about stalking, domestic violence, sexual abuse, and how to stay safe was recently released on Audible as an audiobook. I'm very proud of it and very excited about it. And I am looking for reviews. So if that is something that you would be interested in listening to, it's got amazing information in it. It's extremely important for all females to be able to read or listen to. It's in print, it's in ebook form, and now it is in audiobook form because that's how I prefer to take in information. If that's something that you're interested in, shoot me an email, and I have some codes that can get you a free audiobook in exchange for a review. I would love to do that for you. I would love to get your feedback and know that I'm doing what I set out to do, which is give amazing information and hopefully save people's lives. Thanks, let's get back to the video. Number 3, don't be critical if he or she still loves their partner, or if they leave them and then return over and over again. I think I explained this in the video last week, but just for the sake of you, let me explain it again. In a domestic violence relationship, the dynamics are that the abuser will isolate the victim away from friends and family, everybody that cared about them before. They'll pull them away, sometimes really abruptly, other times really covertly. But the idea is that they eventually are the only person in the victim's life. And they, in that position, and they play the villain, obviously, because they're the abuser, but they also play the hero. And they do it that way on purpose. And it is a programming thing, and it really is a mental warfare. against the victim. But depending on how long the victim was in that relationship and in those back and forth dynamics, that abuser was their hero, potentially for years. Even though that abuser was probably the reason they needed the hero in the first place, that's irrelevant to a point, because what the victim knows is that that person has been there for them. Yes, they've done some crappy things, but they have also been there for them. So if you attack the abuser straight on to that victim, you kind of stand about a 50-50 chance of that victim getting defensive of their hero and shutting down and not being willing to take your help anymore. And that's not where we want them to be. They might see through that. They might see the villain part of it, but if they've been with them long enough, and other factors too, depending on what their programming was like before they ever got with this one. A lot of times people who are in abusive relationships get into abusive relationship after abusive relationship. So maybe they haven't been with this person very long, but the last 3 did the same stuff, and so they definitely have this programming solid into them, and this person doesn't have to program that much. All that to say, don't attack the abuser directly when you're talking to the victim. Attack the behavior. Not, he's a piece of crap because he did this. It's, this was wrong. What he did to you, this was wrong. You should not experience this. You do not deserve this. Nobody deserves to be treated like this. That's how you want to take it, not attacking the abuser directly. Also, this is probably one of the most frustrating things for support networks, support systems, families, friends that stay with an abuse victim, like in their lives, is that statistically it takes 6 or 7 times of leaving an abuser before a victim will leave for good. A lot of times with these intimate partner homicide cases that I'm bringing to you guys, it was one of those times. A lot of these women have left and they weren't able to get away for good. That's not always the case. I went back because I didn't think I could do it financially. Like, I thought I could at first, and then things changed, and then I was scared, and I had kids to take care of, and he had a good job, and was willing to take me back. So, you know, sometimes it's situations like that. Sometimes it's the fact that they're the hero, and I left because I thought it was what was best, but things aren't working out the way that I thought that they would, and I don't know what to do, and you've been my emotional support for all these years, so go back. There are lots of different reasons, and you don't have to understand them all. But it's really difficult sometimes when you see this from the outside and you know that they're dangerous and you know that they're toxic or they're unhealthy and you want better for this person that you care about. It's really frustrating to watch them go back. But they really, really need your consistent support. It's easy to support them the first time, maybe the second time. By the 4th time, you're like, seriously, figure this crap out. But you can't do that to them. Still be consistently supporting them. You don't have to support the behavior even. You don't have to, you can, I don't love that you're in this relationship. We're really clear on that. But I am with you 100% no matter what. I have your back. Even if I don't like this decision that you're making. That's going to give them a solid foundation that they can stand on when they're trying to leave and when they're making decisions that can very easily be life and death decisions, if they know that you've got them no matter what, even if you don't agree. This list says, don't give her advice or tell her what to do. This will only reduce her confidence to make her own decisions. Listen and give her information, not advice. And I see where they're coming from with that. Part of emotional abuse, which I would call programming, is gaslighting, and part of that, the function of that, is to destroy the victim's belief that they can think for themselves, that they can make decisions for themselves, that they're capable of judging like character in people and situations. Can I actually make this choice or that choice? I don't want to do any of that. I get that 100% because I definitely have lived that. But to say don't ever give advice, I feel like is pretty black and white, and this isn't really a black and white kind of thing. There was definitely some years where I almost refused to make decisions about almost anything because I didn't believe that I could. I did not have any confidence in my ability to make decisions, so I would ask other people, what would you do? What do you think about this? And I'd go with whatever they thought. Now, I have since learned that I am actually an intelligent person who is 100% capable of making decisions, a lot of times better than other people, because they don't know my situation the way I know my situation. But for a while, if other people wouldn't have been willing to make decisions and speak into my life, I would have been stuck, because I was not going to be the one to make the decision and screw it up. If they made a decision and it didn't work out, fine. I would give them grace. Nobody makes right decisions all the time. It's totally okay. But if it was me doing it, I would not give myself that grace. I'm an idiot. I should have known better. Blah, blah, blah. You know? So definitely give them information. Definitely listen. Validate their concerns. Do research on their behalf, because sometimes they don't have access to that stuff. Sometimes they can't do that research. If they ask for your advice, I don't see the harm in giving it. Don't tell them what they have to do. Don't be that controlling element, because they've already got enough of that. But I don't think there's harm in offering your opinion. Just make sure that you preface it as that. This is my opinion. I don't know 100% because I'm not in your shoes. I don't know him the way that you know him. I don't have kids in this situation, whatever the case is for that situation, but preface it that way. I'm not you, so I don't have all of the information that you have, and I might not make a decision the way that you would, but this is my thought. I don't think there's any harm in that. The last thing that I would say is don't try to pressure her to leave or try to make decisions on her behalf. Stick with being the ear and being the supporter and being the researcher, the finder out of information and resources if she's not able to do that, or maybe is unwilling. It's easier to just take that information than it is to go searching for it. So things like that. But she knows her situation best, so don't try to push. Or he. I say she because that's more commonly known about, but he also, if it's a male in that situation. Although, unfortunately, if it's a male in that situation, you're probably not watching this as a supporter, you're probably watching this as a victim, because I don't feel like they have a ton of supporters, and that sucks. But if they happen to have reached out to you and they are a male victim, kudos to them. Be a listener and a support and validate them. They need that as much, if not more, than females. Things that you can do to help them to be more safe. The number one thing is find out if they have a safety plan, and if they don't, help them create one. You can email me at staff@aprilhardy.com, and I have 3 different options of safety plans that I can send. Safety plan for having time to prepare to leave, a safety plan for leaving in a hurry, and a safety plan for staying in the relationship. I can give you one or all 3 of them. Shoot me an email. Otherwise, you can Google stuff online. There's different places that provide those. It's just a good thing to have kind of a structure to be able to fill it out. But if you're going to fill it out, the positive to that is then you have something concrete. If something happens in a crisis and adrenaline is rushing and you maybe can't think super logically, then you have this plan that you can look at. The downside to that is it needs to be somewhere where they can't find it, because if they find it, it can put the victim in a lot more danger. So keep that in mind. You can agree on a code word or a signal with them to let you know that you need to call for help. And they are agreeing then that if they use this signal or this code word, you will call the police. And that's just something that you guys have set up. If you have good code word ideas, leave them in the comments section, because I have a really hard time with that. I have never been able to figure out a code word, because it's got to be something that you can slip into conversation and at the same time isn't something that you use all the time. So I'm thinking if I'm talking to them about household stuff and I randomly say banana, people are going to wonder what's going on. Or Pirates of the Caribbean. Or so if you have good options, I'd be curious to know. Or, I don't know. But it's an option. It's not something that I've ever done with somebody probably because I'm not creative enough to come up with it, but you can help them come up with some kind of an excuse if they need to get away in a hurry, like something that they've got in their mind. So if they need to excuse themselves from a situation, I need to go to work, I need to go help with this, so-and-so needs my help. And that's obviously going to depend on how much they have isolated that victim. You know, a victim that doesn't ever get to leave the house is not going to really be able to say, I'm needed at work, because she doesn't have a job. You can find out how the law can protect her where you live, because laws range and vary a ton depending on where you're at. You can look into protection orders or domestic violence orders or stay away orders or things like that and see what kind of weight they actually carry. It just depends, in my opinion, on whether or not this abuser is somebody who cares about breaking the law or not. Because if they don't care about breaking the law, if they feel like they're superior to the law, and a lot of them do, they're not going to be bothered by this paper. And in fact, the paper is going to make it worse, because it's going to tell them exactly where the victim is, where they live, where they work, and anywhere else that they frequent, because in theory, the abuser's supposed to avoid those places. But I mean, that's like giving them a shopping list of where to come and kill you at. So sometimes they're effective, and sometimes people die with them. I feel like each individual abuse victim knows their abuser best, and you know whether or not something like that is going to stop them. Now, maybe it wouldn't stop them in of itself, but maybe your abuser has been in trouble with the law recently and is on probation or parole or something like that. And violating this protection order would be like the last straw before they go to prison or something like that. Maybe that would make it a big enough deal that they wouldn't violate it. So it just depends. They know their abuser. You can get information on that and give it to them, and they can make those decisions. But they can make them better if you give them information on it. You can help them prepare an escape bag, or a go bag, as I call it. I can give you a list of some things that they should have in it. I also have a video on it, which I will link above so that you can watch me put stuff in a bag. But things that you might include: money, extra keys, clothes, bank cards, driver's license, social security cards, any kind of documentation like that that would be important, property, deeds, any of those kinds of things. If you can make copies of that stuff, insurance information, all of that, and have that stashed somewhere, that's awesome. At least like a couple of days worth of medication for extreme need type of things. Children's things, if you've got babies, some diapers, some formula, a bottle, a pacifier, and pack that in a bag and stash it somewhere. It could be somewhere around the house, it could be somewhere at your house, it could be at work if that's something that they will allow, or some alternate location in a tree somewhere. You can get creative with that, but you can help them with packing that. You can offer to be a witness of the abuse for legal purposes if you want to. If they file charges against this person, against their abuser, that might be valuable. However, be aware that it will also put you at risk. Even if you just say that you're a witness for their protection order, they get a copy of that. Everything that is said in that protection order, at least where I live, everything that's said in it, including so-and-so as a witness, is going to be something that's given to that perpetrator. So if they know where you live or where you work, it's a valuable thing to do, okay? But be aware that you're putting yourself at risk, depending on how angry they get. Similarly, you can offer them a place to stay if the abuser doesn't know you and doesn't know where you live. But if they do, that's not a good thing for you or the victim, or the victim's family, or your family. So keep that in mind. I hope that these tips have been helpful to you. I hope that between this video and the last video, you have a good idea of things that you can do to help and things that you can't or shouldn't do to help. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments or to email me at staff@aprilhardy.com. I'm happy to answer questions and try to help explain things if there are things that you don't understand, because I understand that from the outside it's really difficult to understand. Honestly, from the inside it's difficult to understand too, unless this is something that you have seen and been a part of as long as I have. So I think that's what I have for you today. Next week, maybe I won't wait that long. I have an audio recording of a woman that read my book. In the book, I talk about documenting everything. And she decided that her way of documenting things was going to be to record it on audio, and then she sent it to me as her safe person, which was really humbling. And I asked for her permission to publish some of it, things that are not going to be identifying things, and a little bit of her story, because she gave a little bit of her story in it, because I would like for you guys to be able to hear what that might be like, what that might sound like if you were doing it. It was intense for me to listen to the first time, because it 100% took me back to a police interrogation room and me saying similar things to the police officers, making a report and saying, if I die, this is who you should look at. This is who did this. I did not randomly get mugged. This is not a break and enter and a robbery. If I turn up dead, this is who you need to look at. And I appreciate so much her willingness to let me publish some of that, because I feel like it's some of the very real, raw part of this that so often people don't see or hear. They don't get exposed to it. You get that little bitty clip that's on the media, generally speaking, when somebody dies, and that's it. It's really not talked about much. And so to get such a honest and raw and deeply personal look at what that's like for a victim, I don't know what better gift I could give, aside from, advice on how to be safe. But as far as understanding what it's like as a victim and validating your experience as a victim, if you happen to be a victim or a survivor, it's pretty important. So I hope that you come back next week. Until I see you again, stay safe.